afternoon. We got a bagger for y'all today, baby. We got another video from Ornery here. As always, I'm putting his YouTube in the description. He does these really interesting, well done kind of history videos in Warzone that I enjoy watching. A lot of you do as well, so go check them out. This is the entire history of shotguns in Warzone. Now, you know, if there's a shotgun expert in Warzone, it's your boy. I hope y'all enjoyed this as much as I did, man. If you do, hit the like, hit the sub. Most importantly, be sure to tell somebody love. I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, before this gets into it, I'm gonna call. I expect to see a lot of my clips in this because shotguns are kind of my thing, okay? And I also expect to know a lot of these. You got like the Spaz, Streetsweeper, Doof, Famas underbarrel. You got the 7.25 sniper, which technically you see right here. I am the shotgun expert, okay?
Shotguns have a notorious reputation of being completely useless or the most broken gun you can find in Warzone. We've seen a lot of shotguns graze the meta, some of which aren't even part of the shotgun weapon class. So today I want to go through the entire history of shotguns in Warzone. I'm only including shotguns that were relevant at one point or another, so I'm not going to be breaking down every single shotgun we've ever seen in Warzone. But go ahead and comment your favorite shotgun you've ever used in Warzone.
Snake shots. I should have.
This is probably the 5th time we've talked about the snake shots on this channel, but it would be criminal to not include them on this list. Every iteration of Warzone has seen some variation.
I actually missed the memo on the snakes, by the way. I didn't have these. I think it was because I didn't have the attachments unlocked, but like I kind of missed this meta.
Of these, and it's honestly become the same old song and dance. New Warzone gets new snake shot meta at some point or another. Insane range, high fire rate, also taking SMG ammo, which means you could have 150 reserve ammo, which means you never run out of ammo. And was also a secondary, so you didn't even have to run overkill, which was a pretty big deal back in Warzone 1. I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I'll leave you with one more opinion, and that's that this is probably the most no-skill gun we've ever seen in Warzone, and definitely on this list as well.
Origin 12, baby.
I think the Origin 12 is kind of the perfect balance between broken but situational. On a map like Verdansk, the super close range encounters aren't near as common as they are today, especially if you're playing Resurgence. Origin 12 was semi-automatic, had a 2-shot potential, and a 25-round drum magazine support. To counter being semi-automatic, it didn't have the craziest range, but still definitely more than it should have, but not as much as other guns on this list. This is probably one of my favorites on this list because for the most part, semi-automatic shotguns have been historically bad aside from a few exceptions. I think the catch with the Origin 12 was that it was semi-auto, but if you were real quick with the trigger, it was almost fully auto. But it's personally my favorite method of shotgunning since I struggle to hit my shots, and having 25 chances to hit someone only 2 to 3 times, this is the forgiveness I need from a video game. I know I said the snake shots required the least skill of any gun in Warzone, but this is probably the most broken shotgun we've ever seen in Warzone. It's one thing for a shotgun to be one-shot, and I think with the right decisions and stipulations, I think a shotgun should be able to one-shot, but to one-shot someone to over 15 meters away should never be a thing. Also, that should never be able to happen with an underbarrel attachment nonetheless. During Season 5, they decided to buff a couple of aspects of the Famas.
I think that is the most broken gun.
One of which was the damage and the damage range of the gun. However, in doing so, they must have put the decimal in the wrong spot or carried the buff to the underbarrel shotgun attachment somehow. Anyways, this resulted in that underbarrel shotgun attachment to not only have insane range, but insane damage as well. This was an exploit unlike any we had seen before and made Warzone completely unplayable for like 2 weeks. Another crazy thing about this is that since this was an attachment, you still had a perfectly fine Famas to use as well, which made this thing even more broken. Essentially, you were carrying 3 guns. The only saving grace about this attachment was that the only way you could get more ammo for it was through a munitions box, and I think you could only have 8 shots total. But once you use those 8 shots and you didn't have a munitions box, your time was up. But those 8 shots were pretty much 8 guaranteed kills no matter what. Luckily, this was such a broken attachment that Raven was able to hotfix this exploit and only lasted like a week or 2. I know I said 2 weeks earlier, but I don't even think it was that long. But it's still one of the most ridiculous things that has ever made it into Warzone before.
That's my baby.
The R9 would be the very first weapon actually from the shotgun class of weapons that I truly found broken and extremely unbalanced. Like I said with the Origin, it was great and all, but still saw a lot of instances where having an SMG would be much better. Well, the R9 on the other hand was sort of a semi-auto pump action hybrid because with each pull of the trigger it shot 2 shells, and after each pump you're ready to fire 2 more. Technically it took only 1 pump to kill someone, which was 2 shots, but that's still just 1 pull of the trigger, so we can go ahead and lump this as a 1-shot shotgun. Let's also factor in support for the Dragon's Breath rounds, which were criminally overpowered as well. Aside from the 1-shot potential, the range on the R9 was also just ridiculous. Also, since you were pumping between each pull of the trigger, there was no need for any type of recoil control, which made hitting your shots that much easier. Funny thing about this meta was that it actually somewhat overlapped with the Origin 12 and the next entry on this list, so it was kind of like funny seeing 3 different shotguns being viable at the same time. However, I still find the R9 being the best of the 3, and I think most people would agree with that. Eventually, the Dragon's Breath rounds specifically were nerfed, and the R9 also, I think, received a damage range nerf, making this gun absolutely useless for the rest of Warzone 1. Personally, I think the
I've
VLK
called
Rogue
every
was
shotgun
severely
so far,
overshadowed by the
except
previous
snakes.
entries on this list, but was actually a really good option at close range. Aside from not being quite as good as the R9,
You could also put slugs in the VLK, and it was almost like a sniper. It was kind of crazy too.
if I'm not mistaken, there was a ground loot VLK that had slug rounds in it, which were absolutely useless. And I think this ended up tricking people into writing off the Rogue as a terrible shotgun. However, after a couple of buffs and support for the Dragon's Breath
you put
rounds, this
fire
gun
in it.
became very good. With a true one-shot potential and pretty much guaranteed two-shot at the right range, this was every bit of a sleeper build. The only con it had was that it was a pump action via the pump grip, so your time between shots wasn't all that fast, and also only had an 8-round magazine support. But even then, this was still really good. I think there were a lot of external factors keeping people from using this gun, such as the R9 being good, and then like the ground loot VLKs just being absolutely trash. If I'm not mistaken, I think after the R9 nerf, this was still like a meta shotgun, like probably at one point the best shotgun to use in the game, but not for that very long of a time.
Yeah.
As I was doing research for this video, there was a lot of people still using the VLK on Rebirth Island in like 2021 and 2022, which is way after its time in the meta. So I think it's safe to say this shotgun remained a pretty good option for the rest of Warzone 1.
Other guy's loadout right there was like, you see this? He had the VLK Car 98.
VLK on Rebirth Island in like 2021 and 2022, which is way after
pulls out the Car 98.
its time in the meta. So I think it's safe to say this shotgun remained a pretty good option for the rest of Warzone.
Shotty snipes. Jack-12, dude.
Now, I'll be honest, I never used this gun, and that's mainly because of the next gun on this list completely overshadowing it. So I don't want to sit here and act like it's the best gun ever that I know a darn thing about it in the first place. However, after watching a lot of gameplay, it seems like the trade-off here was being fully auto and also supporting 32 rounds in a magazine, which is also the highest on this list so far. But that being said, it still had really low damage to make up for it. This gun probably could have seen a lot more love if it weren't for the timing of when it was added.
Streetsweeper. Yeah, this thing was crazy.
Once Cold War was integrated into Warzone, we only had 4 shotguns to choose from, and only one of them was good. But it was like, really good. Enter the Streetsweeper, which is a fully
Spaz was pretty good too.
automatic shotgun that was dominating Warzone for a decent period of time. Usually the sacrifice with fully auto and even semi-auto shotguns is that you have restricted magazine size, high recoil, and low damage. Well, the Streetsweeper was quite literally the opposite of all of those. Recoil is usually not a major factor for most people when it comes to shotguns, but for me, I personally prefer a smoother experience when it comes to the semi-auto and fully auto, and let me tell you, the Streetsweeper was so smooth, you could barely even tell you were shooting it. Throw on an 18-round drum mag and high damage, and this was destroying Rebirth soon after it launched.
I think the largest issue with the Streetsweeper was the speed you had when you ran with it. That was about
The only
it.
con for this gun was that its reload time was absolutely horrific. It seriously might be the longest reload of any gun since you have to manually insert each shell one at a time. Other than that, there's a lot of people's favorite shotgun to use, and even after some nerfs, the gun would still be viable for the rest of Warzone 1, which is always fun.
I love how I was like,
Since we wouldn't get any more new shotguns until the Vanguard integration.
I love how I was like, I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of clips of me. I haven't seen one clip, by the way, but I love all these shotguns.
The next shotgun that would graze the Warzone meta would be the Akimbo double barrel shotgun.
These things were
Yet another gun
busted.
making it into my broken guns video. This was destroying lobbies pretty much the same way the snake shots were. Only this time we had Rebirth Island for non-stop close range encounters. They pretty much were the same gun, only I think the double barrels had better mobility and only held 2 shots per magazine
for more
obviously
range.
because it's a double barrel shotgun. Seriously, that was the only saving grace here, was that you had to reload after 2 shots, but that didn't really matter because you reloaded in like 1 second. This is another meta that didn't last very long and it was nerfed pretty quickly. Warzone 2 makes its debut with a ton of mid shotguns for Warzone, so it wouldn't be until the introduction of the KV
I am shocked the Spaz 12 didn't make the list.
outside in Season 2 when a shotgun returned to the meta. This coincided with the launch of Ashika Island, which, as you can probably guess, complemented each other very well. Being semi-auto with up to 25 rounds in its magazine, with high range, high damage, and support for Dragon's Breath rounds, this one about as good as you would expect it to. The gun was broken, needless to say, and you would think after the previous shotguns with Dragon's Breath rounds being ridiculous, they would learn a thing or two. Apparently not. Fun fact, this was the gun that carried me to my first ever MGB in Modern Warfare 2.
I love when it's saucy on my own fucking VTOL.
I got the nuke! I got the nuke! I got the nuke!
Even after some nerfs, it was still broken, so then a second round of patches would eventually lead it to its irrelevance in Warzone as a whole.
I was gonna say,
I don't know how or what led up
I was gonna say, I wonder if he's gonna do the snake shots again.
to this. All I know is that towards the end of Warzone 2, the basilisks in the game had a snake shot ammo that was super broken, and everyone hated it. I'll go ahead and talk about the Warzone 3 snake shots. Since at launch, they would also be broken and possibly the most broken version of the snake shots. But to avoid redundancy, this is the last time I'm going to be talking about the snake shots in this video. The Lockwood 300 was a launch shotgun in Warzone 2, but it wasn't until they added the dual trigger attachment to when it would actually see any viability.
I'm actually surprised he didn't do the 725
it
like
saw a lot of viability. The dual trigger shot bull shots with one pull of the trigger, and unlike the R9 shotgun, this actually shot bull shots at once instead of a staggered 2 shots. Anyways, I think this is a perfect example of a gun being able to one shot being okay, because since you're taking one shot and having to reload, I think it should be able to one shot. If it didn't one shot, like, what's the point of even using it? However, the broken aspect about this was its range was absolutely ridiculous. If they would just taper that down by like 6 or 7 meters, I think it wouldn't be all that broken like a lot of people say it is. I think another funny thing about this gun was that you could pair the trigger with slug rounds and then throw on a sniper optic and turn this into like a makeshift sniper rifle that I think also one-shot it if you hit them in the head, but had like terrible velocity. Nice option for like a troll build.
You could technically do that in Verdansk with the original 725 as well.
This would be nerfed and then will return at the launch of Warzone 3 for some reason. I don't know like how that happened. It was seriously brought back to its original state. Not sure why they did that, but at the launch of Warzone 3, you could still be using this exact same class setup. This is another sleeper shotgun that even right now, as of me making this video, is still pretty good and probably the best option for a shotgun in Warzone 3 right now. Despite being a pump shotgun, it still doesn't one-shot, but its mobility and rechambering speed is so good that it makes up for it. I think the Lockwood 680 depicts what a truly balanced shotgun should be like, since it really is only going to work out in certain situations, unlike other shotguns in this list, which work out in pretty much any. I wouldn't use this in any mode aside from Resurgence, but there are plenty of moments I've had with this gun that have been a lot of fun. I think if you really want to make it work, you definitely can. This is probably the most broken shotgun we've seen in Warzone 3, but if I'm being honest, it really wasn't all that broken in the grand scheme. It was fine on its own, but the really fun way to use this gun was to use the Jack Maglift aftermarket part, which gave it a binary trigger. If you don't know what a binary trigger is, it's a trigger that fires a bullet when you pull the trigger and then fires another once you release it. Pretty much like the R9, but in a way better way. Also, this AMP came with a default 60-round magazine, so you could spam as much as you wanted. There was also support for alternate ammo types, and I think that was the really broken part about this Maglift kit. They eventually took away the alternate ammo support for it, which made it much more balanced.
I mean, this is right now.
This is one of the craziest aftermarket parts in the game right now. Essentially turning the Lockwood MK2 marksman rifle into the Model 1887 shotguns with a Jack Warden's AMP. Now, if I'm being honest, these guns are fun more than anything and really just not that good at all. Similar to the 680, this is a very situational gun, but even less so than the 680.
Since he recorded this, they technically got buffed, and I actually made a video on it too. They got buffed, the damage on them, and you can shoot them both at the same time, and they're actually kind of... in Resurgence, I was one-shotting people with it.
They recently fixed a bug that wasn't allowing the gun to shoot properly, but even after that, I still wouldn't recommend using it over the 680. They two-shot and are fast, but the range is pretty horrific, and they only support 6 shots, so definitely not the best. Just thought it'd be fun to include it since it's brand new to the game and also pretty nostalgic. But that wraps up every shotgun in Warzone history. Let me know if there's a shotgun that you think should have been on this list. Check out some of my other Warzone history videos, join my Discord if you're feeling crazy, and look out for my live streams right here on YouTube. You don't even have to go to another app. And as always, if you liked, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Comment if you like, and thank you so much for watching.
I love how it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of clips in this one, not one, but I think the main one that I feel he missed was the Spaz 12. Is that and it looks like that's one of the top comments. The Gallo, that was the Spaz was the Gallo, right? Whiffs Gallo 12. It was right, Spaz 12. Yeah. So that's one of the ones that someone said they were shocked and missed. And the MW 725. Yeah, I agree with that too. The Modern Warfare, those are the two that I think should have been on there as well. Modern Warfare 725. So the Verdansk one, and then the Spaz. Those are my two for sure. I really think about it, there might be more. But regardless, I love shotgun metas, bro. I love it. Y'all know me.